There are moments in the life of a royal family that arrive quietly, without fanfare, without the blare of trumpets, or the rush of breaking news alerts, and yet somehow, those are the moments that carry the most weight. They settle into the public consciousness slowly, like the turning of a tide, like fluid, and only when you look back do you realize that something fundamental has shifted. What Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, have just shared with the world is exactly that kind of moment. It is not loud, it is not sensational. But beneath the surface of what appears to be a straightforward announcement lies something far more significant, something that speaks to where this couple is headed, what the monarchy is becoming, and why, in a time of profound institutional uncertainty, the choices made by these two people matter more than perhaps anyone fully appreciates. To understand why this announcement carries such unusual weight, you have to step back and consider the larger picture. William and Catherine have spent the last several years navigating a chapter of their lives that no amount of royal preparation could have truly readied them for. There was Catherine's cancer diagnosis, a moment of raw vulnerability that the public witnessed with a kind of stunned silence, a reminder that behind the titles and the ceremonies and the carefully arranged portrait sittings, there are simply two human beings carrying the kind of burdens that do not discriminate based on rank or privilege. And then came the long, quiet road of recovery, a period in which Catherine largely withdrew from public life, and in which William assumed a kind of solitary presence at the front of the royal stage, steady and composed even as those around him knew the family was facing something deeply personal. That period changed them. Anyone who has watched closely could see it, and it is out of that changed place that this announcement has now come. What they have revealed speaks directly to the future of the monarchy in a way that transcends the ordinary rhythms of royal life. It is not simply a scheduling update or a charitable initiative, though on its surface it may have elements of both. What this announcement represents is a deliberate, thoughtful declaration of intention, a signal unmistakably clear to those paying attention that William and Catherine have emerged from the most difficult period of their lives with a renewed sense of purpose, and more importantly, a renewed clarity about what kind of future they want to build, not just for themselves, but for the institution they will one day lead. And that clarity is something the monarchy has been quietly, desperately waiting for. There has been no shortage of turbulence surrounding the British royal family in recent years. The departure of Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, for a life outside of royal duties, left a wound in the institution that is not entirely healed. King Charles, now, navigating his own health challenges while simultaneously attempting to reshape the monarchy into something leaner, more purposeful, and more relevant to a modern world, has carried an enormous weight. And throughout all of it, the question that has hovered over everything, rarely spoken aloud but always present, has been this. When the time comes for William and Catherine to step fully into the roles that history has prepared for them, who will they be? Not as symbols, not as figures on a coin or a stamp, but as leaders. As human beings with a vision. That is the question this announcement begins to answer. The announcement centers on a deepening and expansion of the couple's charitable and social impact work, with a particular focus on early childhood development, mental health, and the long-term well-being of communities across the United Kingdom and beyond. But to reduce it to those terms alone would be to miss the point entirely, because what William and Catherine are signaling through this expansion is something far more architectural. They are laying the foundations of a reign, not a ceremonial reign defined by ribbon cuttings and state banquets, though those elements will always be part of the role, but a reign defined by genuine investment in the lives of ordinary people, a reign that takes seriously the idea that a modern monarchy must earn its place in the national story, not simply inherit it. Catherine's involvement in this announcement is particularly striking. Her return to public life following her illness and treatment has been gradual, deliberate, and deeply considered. She has not rushed back into the full weight of royal engagements simply to satisfy public appetite or to quiet concern. Instead, she has returned on her own terms, choosing the moments that matter most, the appearances that carry real meaning, and in doing so, she has communicated something remarkable about her own evolution. She is no longer simply the polished, composed figure who stood beside her husband as he prepared for his future role. She has become something more defined, more purposeful, more quietly authoritative, and the announcement they have made together reflects that shift in profound ways. It is a partnership announcement in the truest sense of the word, not William speaking on behalf of both of them, but two people standing together with a shared vision that clearly emerged from the depths of a shared experience. There's a particular phrase that has resonated deeply with those who have followed this story closely. William, speaking about the direction they intend to take their public work, described it as building something that outlasts the moment. That phrase, simple as it sounds, is extraordinary in its implications. It suggests a perspective that reaches beyond the immediate news cycle, beyond the demands of the weekly schedule of engagements, and into something that thinks in decades rather than days. It is the language of legacy. Spoken not in the abstract way that royals sometimes invoke legacy as a kind of comfortable platitude, but with the specific urgency of someone who has looked into the face of mortality, who has sat beside someone they love while they fought for their life, and who has emerged from that experience asking the most essential question anyone in a position of influence can ask. What does it all actually mean, and what does it actually build? Catherine's perspective on this has been equally telling. In the months since her recovery, she has spoken with the kind of unguarded directness that feels new, feels earned, feels like something that could only have come from having passed through something genuinely difficult. She has spoken about the importance of catching problems early, of reaching children and families at the moments in life when intervention makes the greatest difference, of building systems of support that do not wait for crisis to arrive before they respond. These are not abstract policy preferences. They are the convictions of someone who has thought carefully about vulnerability, about what it means to need support, and about what kind of world she wants her children, and the children of this country, to grow up in. And in this announcement, those convictions have found their fullest expression yet. It is worth pausing here in the middle of this story to reflect on something that often gets lost in the rush to explain and analyze royal events. What we are watching with William and Catherine is not simply the management of a public image. It is not strategy in the cynical, calculated sense that word sometimes implies. What we are watching is two people, shaped by extraordinary circumstances, trying to make something genuinely meaningful out of positions that could so easily become hollow. That choice, to pour real substance into roles that the world would honor, regardless of what substance they chose to bring, is itself remarkable. And it is worth asking yourself, as someone watching this story unfold, what it means to you. What does it mean to you that the future King and Queen of England have chosen, after everything, to lead with this? The reaction to the announcement has been significant, and notably, it has crossed the usual dividing lines of royal opinion. People who have grown skeptical of the monarchy, who have questioned its relevance in a modern democratic society, have found themselves pausing at this news, because what William and Catherine are proposing is not a defense of the monarchy as a relic, not a celebration of tradition for tradition's sake, but a genuine attempt to ask how an ancient institution can serve contemporary human needs in ways that matter. That is a conversation that goes beyond politics, beyond the usual fault lines of Republican versus Royalist debate, and into something that touches the essential question of what leadership actually means in this era. And the fact that this couple is not just asking that question but attempting to live out an answer to it is, by any measure, significant. The timing of the announcement has also attracted considerable attention, coming as it does in a period when the royal family has faced renewed scrutiny, when questions about purpose and relevance have been louder than usual, when the weight of institutional expectation has pressed hard on the people carrying it. The announcement feels deliberate in its timing without feeling reactive. It does not have the quality of a response to criticism, not a defensive maneuver designed to shift a news cycle. It has the quality of something that has been quietly prepared, quietly considered, and released at a moment when it can be heard clearly and received on its own terms. That kind of communicative patience is, itself, a form of royal sophistication. William's own transformation through this period has been something that observers have noted with particular interest. The young prince who once seemed to carry the weight of his role with a kind of dutiful reluctance, who sometimes appeared more comfortable in the relative anonymity of his earlier life than in the spotlight that always awaited him, has become something noticeably different. There is a settledness to him now, a groundedness that feels less like resignation and more like genuine peace with who he is and what he is being called to do. Those who have encountered him in recent months have remarked on a warmth that feels more accessible than before, an ease in conversation that carries real curiosity about the people he meets and the problems they face. Grief and love, it turns out, are extraordinary teachers, and William has clearly been an attentive student of both. The children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, are naturally a part of the larger story here, though they remain, rightly and necessarily, protected from its full weight. But they are present in the subtext of everything William and Catherine do, because every decision this couple makes about their public roles is also, implicitly, a decision about the kind of inheritance they are preparing. Not the material inheritance of crowns and palaces, but the inheritance of meaning, the sense of why any of it matters, the conviction that service is not a performance, but a vocation. George, who will one day wear the crown himself, is growing up watching parents who have been tested and who have not retreated into safety and ceremony, but have pressed forward into something that asks real questions and attempts real answers. That, perhaps more than anything else in this story, is the detail that history will remember. What makes this announcement ultimately so compelling is not any single element within it, but the accumulation of everything it represents. It represents survival. The survival not just of Catherine's health, but of a marriage, a family, and a vision under extraordinary pressure. It represents growth, the kind that is only possible when you have been genuinely broken open by life and have chosen, consciously, to let that breaking reshape you into something wiser and more generous. It represents commitment, not the vague, ceremonial commitment that titles confer automatically, but the real, lived, daily commitment of two people who have looked at what they have been given, what they have nearly lost, and have decided together that they will use it well. And perhaps most powerfully, it represents hope. Not the sentimental, easy kind of hope that requires nothing of anyone, but the demanding kind of hope that is built on evidence, built on witness, built on the accumulation of small, consistent choices made by people who believe that what they do actually matters. The monarchy has survived centuries of change because it has, at its best, offered the nation something to believe in, something that speaks to continuity and meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and directionless. William and Catherine, through this announcement and through the journey that has led to it, are offering exactly that. Not because they are perfect, not because they are beyond question, but because they are clearly, genuinely trying to be worthy of the extraordinary roles they carry. The road ahead for them is long, and it will not be without its difficulties. There will be more scrutiny, more criticism, more moments when the gap between the ideal of royal service and the messy reality of human limitation becomes visible and uncomfortable. But what this announcement suggests, with quiet but unmistakable clarity, is that they are ready for that road. That they have looked at what is ahead, have felt the full weight of it, and have chosen to walk toward it together with open eyes and a shared purpose. That is not a small thing. In a world that often rewards retreat, that is an act of extraordinary courage. The future of the British monarchy is, in many ways, being written right now, not in Parliament and not in the pages of constitutional history, but in the choices being made by a man and a woman who are doing their best to live with grace inside an impossible role. What they have announced is not just a program of work or a series of upcoming engagements. It is a statement of who they intend to be. And as that statement settles into the public consciousness, as it finds its way into the conversations people have about what the royal family is and what it should be, it carries with it the quiet, insistent possibility that something genuinely new is being born. Something that honors the best of what has come while reaching, with both hands, toward a future that is more human, more honest, and more fully alive to what this moment in history requires. William and Catherine are not just preparing for a reign, they are already building one careful, courageous, considered step at a time. If this story moved something in you, if you found yourself seeing these two people and this ancient institution in a new light, then share that response in the comments below. Your perspective is part of this conversation, and conversations like this one matter. If you would like to continue exploring the deeper currents running beneath the surface of royal life and modern history, then please subscribe to this channel and leave a like on this video. There is always more to discover, and the next story is already waiting.